Hey, I'm Jake, and today I'm talking about Kickstarter Part 2 and Skyheart. Okay, so in the last video I talked about how to get a quote for your book or your project. I went through my to-do list, and in this video I'm going to talk about specific numbers. How do you figure out how much money you should ask for? What are all the hidden costs and things that you need to watch out for when you're figuring out that amount that you need people to back you at? I'm going to go through all that, and I also want to share with you my latest batch of Skyheart drawings. So let's do that. Alright, so I've been drawing a lot, and I got some cool stuff here to show. So this is the Tengu, and if you remember the last video, I showed a little bit of them. Where's that other? Yeah, here we are. I showed a little bit of them attacking, one of them attacking Wake's mom. But I wanted to show, like, this is what these guys look like. This is the different variants that they have. And basically the design of these guys, I have a sketchbook here, shows the evolution of how I came up with them. One second, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So this sketchbook has some of my early designs for these guys, and I wanted to make them like really creepy and evil looking. So it was going for this like two-toned, yellow-bellied but black armored dinosaur thing. And I was showing these to my friends, and they're like, "Those are really cool, but they kind of remind me of some other characters, like those toys, those dinosaur toys in that Toy Story short." And so I scrapped that and went a different direction. Here's some more versions of them. I thought, what can I do to like really make them unique and original? And so this was like turning a rooster into like some wicked animal monster thing. Kind of works, kind of not that scary. I went a little further, like made the bird really monstrous, and I like that. But then I thought, it needs to be something really different. So I thought, let's keep the feathers, but what if they didn't have eyes, they just had a mouth? And these were my initial sketches for that. And so that was, this was my design. And I like it. I think it looks really cool. I think it's somewhat unique. It's sort of like a mix between the rat creatures, and I don't know if you saw Howl's Moving Castle, but you know how he turns into that bird creature? It's kind of like that. I haven't seen the movie, but after I posted these online, everyone's like, hey, it kind of reminds me of the monsters from Attack the Block. I went and looked those up, and they're these big black hairy monsters, kind of like gorillas, but all they have are these like glowing teeth. So there's a little bit of that, I guess, infused in there. And so these are some of my initial sketchbook designs. What I still need to come up with is, these are sort of like the grunt workers. I need to come up with like maybe that's what I'll draw today for Inktober. I need to come up with like the main bad guy, and he's like the, if to go back to Star Wars, if there's the Emperor who's like the puppet master pulling all the strings, who is his Darth Vader? And that's what I have. I have this like dark evil lord. I haven't really designed him yet. I don't even know if he'll show up in the book. He might just be in the shadows. But who's his Darth Vader? So I need to figure out who the Darth Vader is of these guys. And these guys are more like, stormtroopers. They're expendable. But I want to figure out the guy. And he should be like a more evolved version of these guys. And I think what I'm going to do is have him have like eyeballs, like a bunch of eyeballs up here, because these guys, they're blind. They use maybe echolocation or something to track things down, so make these weird clicking noises. And so I thought it'd be cool if, and it's also kind of symbolic, like these guys don't have eyes, so they can't see for themselves, and they're just blindly following their leader. But it would be cool if their leader had like a bunch of eyes and he's like all seeing. So that's where I'm going with that. Let's see, what's the next one? I got to design technology for this world. I did a ship design, a spaceship design it's not a spaceship because it flies in the atmosphere, but their technology that they have, because the world, I haven't really gotten into explaining the world, but the world operates on some different, there's different forces operating on this world than operate on our own world. So things can float, things can hover. They don't necessarily need to follow some of the principles of aerodynamics that our own planes have to follow. And they have a unique propulsion system that I'll get into at some point. But this is my idea for this this flying craft that, you know, this might be like some sort of fighter for one of the countries. This is one of the main characters. His name's Limburg, and he is a flying pig-like creature. And at some point, Wake, I believe, rescues him or saves him, saves his life somehow. I forget what I wrote down. I'm still working. I'm still figuring out some of the details, but they do get paired up, and he's very loyal to Wake because of what Wake did for him. So that's that guy. His other, to round out the rest of the team, this crew, this adventurous crew going out with Wake is Grim, and he is a pygmy flying whale or air whale, and they rescue him from these pirates who are like smuggling him. They're doing like this animal black market thing, and they're delivering him to somebody, and Wake and Limburg and the Sylph warrior, I think her name is Yana. I like that name, Yana. But we'll see, but that's a temporary name. Anyways, they work together and they save him, and then they all go on the adventure to help Wake. So that's that. I have another ship here. This is really trying to... I didn't feel like I didn't quite push things far enough with this design-wise. I really wanted to try something different with this. So it's got, you know, this nice shape going on here, and then wings on the top and on the bottom. Since this thing doesn't actually land on the ground, it just kind of hovers. It doesn't have to have landing gear, so why not use the bottom area for wings too. So that's the design there. I kind of like this. These are both from the same country. They've got this symbol going on, which is like this diamond with an eye, and this this triangular pattern. And if you see on this image I did last week, you could see the flag has the same pattern too. And then my last image is the group, all of them together, and they are, let me see if I can zoom out. Nope, I'm zoomed out as far as I can. So this is it. You'll just have to like scan through it like this. But this is them off on their adventure, and they're headed out to do the thing. I'll talk more about this story later. But that's it. Just wanted to update you on what I've been working on for Skyheart. Now let's get to figuring out the numbers. How do I figure out how I'm going to, you know, what I need to ask for, and how I'm going to make sure I get that right amount for this Kickstarter. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so I got my Kickstarter notes, and as you can see here, well, if you look here, I am making my way through this to-do list. I locked the domain name, locked that down. I actually started making the landing page. There is a landing page there. I can check that off right now. So if you go to skyheartcomic.com and you go to that landing page, there is an image, a full color image, like a promo piece, and then there's a information slots that you can put in your name and your email and get notified of when the Kickstarter launches. So I got that. Have about 500 people already signed up for it, so yeah, that's good. I started writing my copy and my pitch on the airplane yesterday. I'm going through these images, making all these images. I almost figured out my reward tiers, still working on that. I'm going to talk about that next video. But I did figure out my numbers, and let's do that. What I have here is I have this section, this section. This is my first stab at doing the numbers. This is my second stab. Me and my wife sat down and did it together. And then I have my third stab here, which I did by myself, and then I reviewed it with my mom and my sister, and my niece, who's good at math, and she's kind of figured out they all like basically validated my numbers and said, yeah, that works, that sounds good. So let's talk about the numbers. First things first, I need a piece of paper and a marker. Okay, but before I get into the numbers, I want to talk about the two kinds of Kickstarters. Okay, there's two kinds of every Kickstarter. If you look at all the Kickstarters, they fall into these two camps. And number one is the camp where the product is finished, the content is there and made, they just need money for production. And number two, there's a camp where there's a proof of concept. We've got this really neat idea, but we need money to create it, and then we need money to produce it, to put it into production. Okay, these two things vary in that a lot of times you'll find certain projects fall a lot under this one, and other projects fall a lot under this one. Video games oftentimes fall into this. Video games are expensive to make. They require a lot of people, a lot of time, and so what often happens is they'll create a proof of concept, and then they'll come to Kickstarter and say, okay, we've got this cool idea, we've got some characters, we've got some animation, we've got a little bit of gameplay, but we need money to pay this team of people for the next 6 months or the next year in order to make this project, and then we can get it out to you. And a lot of times in this first camp, if you go to the comics section, and this is my last two Kickstarters, is I've got all these comics that I've drawn over the years, or I've got all these pages, and I've got this story that I've completed. I just need money to print this book. I want to get this book made. I want to send it out to people who support me. I just need money to print it. And both of these are completely valid. In fact, what's interesting, Kickstarter initially was designed for this second camp. The creators of Kickstarter, if you go and read interviews and you see what it was initially designed for, it was they wanted to create a website and to create a system where people could be patrons of creators, where they could say, okay, I believe in you, I believe in your project, I'm willing to give this amount of money and support you working on this for the next 6 months or 3 months or however long, and then in return you have some reward for my pledge. What's happened is you have society and you have the public taking this tool that Kickstarter created and turning it into the thing that it wants and it needs, and that is basically using Kickstarter as a pre-order service. So it's saying, hey, I've got everything done and made, I'm going to get these books printed, I just need some money to make these books, and if you like it, pre-order it now and the book will be sent out to you. Both of those work great, and Kickstarter has been successful for both of the camps. Okay, while I was editing this, I realized there's something I wanted to add that I didn't quite get on in the recording, and that was, while both of these different camps are completely valid, they do require different levels of faith on the part of the backers. The first one, the production one, it just requires the amount of faith that the backers have in the creator that he or she can get the book printed, get the object made and shipped out to them. And that does require faith. But the second one requires a higher level of faith in that not only do they have to do the shipping and the printing and all of that, but they have to make the product. They may have a proof of concept that's really killer, but do they have the credentials to back that up? And so you need to look yourself, if you're launching a Kickstarter, you need to make sure you have the credentials to back up living in this camp, saying, I need the money to create the content for this. And you could say, well, I've worked on these things, I've done these things, I've done this before, this is my third or fourth or 10th time doing this, so it's not going to be a problem, I just need the money to do it. And if you can do that, and if you can back that up, then I think it's completely valid for you to go this route. If this is your first time out of the gate, probably the best idea is to have it finished first and ask people for the money just to get it printed. That way there's a higher percentage that everyone will be happy because the work is already finished. But if you're But if you're already operating on that level and it's already expected and you've proven that you can do that kind of thing, then I do think it's completely fine to go that route. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's actually talk about the numbers for this particular Skyheart comic book. Let me get another sheet of paper here. So for this Kickstarter, I'm going to print my marker got a little dry. 2,000 books. Okay. This is the what column. This is the total column. Dang it, I hate markers that dry out. I was waving it around too much or something. So 2,000 books at $5.14 a book. Comes out to, I already did the math so I don't have to do it in front of you here, but that it's going to be $10,272. So initially $10,272. On top of that, on Antler Boy, I hired an editor to go through and just make sure all the spelling was good and everything looked professional and it was tight. And they charged me around $500, so I'm going to say, it was a little less, I'm just going to say for this book, $500 for an editor to go through and make sure everything's good there. In order to get this book done, I'm going to need a colorist to color the pages. And I'll be doing some pages, but the colorist will be doing most pages. And the price I have quoted for, I talked to a guy already, the price I've quoted from him is about $6,000 for 90 to 100 pages of coloring. And then there's also just little ancillary extra costs like the ISBN number. There might be like shipping the books to my house cost. Who knows what else. We'll just do etceteras. These are just little things like, you know, that just might pop up. So all that together, we're going to say like 300, maybe, yeah, we'll do $300 for that. Okay. Now, in order to get this book done, it's also my time spent on writing, drawing, penciling, and inking it. The time spent on developing the Kickstarter, and all the time spent on dealing with pledges and getting books, getting the books printed and all of that stuff, packing and shipping and managing and all that. What I've basically boiled it down to is I'm basing it off of my Marvel page rate for Rocket Raccoon that I did last year, which was around, it was under $300 a page. I'm just going to, because of all the extra stuff going in there, I'm going to say $300 a page. And that covers writing, drawing, penciling, inking, and all the little extra stuff that goes into putting this Kickstarter together. And it's going to be about a 100-page book. There's going to be, it could be over, it could be a 110-page book. And then there's extra pages in the back which will have a gallery, all that stuff. And so if we add that all up, it's going to be about $30,000 to $35,000. But I'm just going to ask for $30,000 for my time for the next 6 months to create this book. 4/7. All this added together is $47,072. And that's to just get the book finished and printed. It doesn't count shipping it, and doesn't count packaging and shipping and handling, all that stuff. If $47,000 is how much I need to do that, then when you're doing a Kickstarter, one thing you need to recognize is the average pledge amount. Like, how many backers am I going to have to get this amount of money? The average pledge amount, we'll call it the average pledge amount, the APA, on Kickstarter is like $50. Okay? Most Kickstarters, the pledger's back at $50. Now, I've noticed on my own Kickstarters, on Antler Boy, it was like $42, $43. On drawings, it was like $38. So I'm going to say average, this Kickstarter's not going to be too far off from that. I'm going to say my average for this Kickstarter is $40. And that means majority of people are backing it at the lower levels, but then you've got a handful of people backing it at the higher levels, and you add them all together, and it comes out to about $40 per pledge. When you divide that into 47,000, you get about 1,777 backers. Okay, this is all rough math, but it's enough to get you like close. So you figure out this amount you figure out the amount that it's going to cost to just get this thing made. Then you figure out your average pledge amount and divide it, and you get this number here. So these are my backers. I have to ship out 1,100, a little over 1,100 books. Now on past Kickstarters, I found that 1/3 are international and 2/3 are domestic. Okay, international, for me to ship a book out internationally and for me to ship a book out domestically varies a lot. When you figure out, I've already got it figured out for like my shipping and handling, my packing supplies, which is basically, going to my notes here. What do we have? So we have packaging, which is bubble wrap or bubble bags. We have cardboard mailers. And then I have my mailing service, which is indicia.com, which is labels and the price that I pay for that service. It's awesome. So basically you can put in 100 addresses and then hit enter, and it'll just print out 100 labels, and it'll charge the shipping every time it prints a label, and you just slap those on the thing. It saves you so much time, and you don't have to like sit at the post office. You just bring boxes to actually you can call the post office and they'll send a truck to your house and give you and just pick up everything you've done. All of this together is I think like $3 or $4. So we'll say $4 to pay for the bubble bags, the cardboard, the mailing labels, and then the usually just the time it takes to pack up a box, and put a book in there and all that stuff. And whether you're hiring out people to do this for you or you're doing it for yourself, you need to take into account the amount of time you're going to put into that. So that's that. So $4, and then on top of that, to ship international is about $20 for a package, and to ship domestically, I ship media mail because it works pretty much as good as priority mail, and it costs half as much. Priority mail, you can get the books there, things there, 2 to 3 days. Media mail takes about a week, costs half as much, and it's just because they're books and it's classified as media, I'd rather not charge a whole extra bit for shipping and kind of put that savings on the backers. So $3.50, $4, so it's about we'll say $7 to ship a book domestically. Okay, so that means 1/3 of these backers are going to be shipped at, well, we'll do +4 for this stuff, +4, so we've got $24, and then 7 + 4 is 11 for that. Okay, so $24 times 1/3. 1/3 of this many backers is, I did the math here, 392. So 392 times 24 equals 9,408. And then 2/3 is 784 times, wait, I did this wrong. It's $7, not +4. It's $7. We'll say $8. $4 for this, $4 for media mail. Sorry. Okay, so 7084 times 8 equals 6,272. Add that together, and we've got 15,680 to cover the shipping and handling and packaging and all that stuff. So we're gonna, now I know this plus this is going to be 62,752, and that is the amount of money I need to do this Skyheart book. And that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to ask for. My first Kickstarter, I made about 63,000. No, that was my second one. My first one, I made about 85,000. I lost a lot of money on this Kickstarter because I didn't figure this out. I thought international shipping was way cheaper. I didn't realize I was sending, for some of the pledges, I was sending 2 packages out to people. So not only did I charge half as much, but it was 4 times as much to ship out 2 packages to people. So all my profits from the domestic shipping was going into paying for international shipping. It was a pretty tight squeeze. That's why you've got to figure this stuff out beforehand to make sure that you've got enough money in there to mail out packages to the amount of backers that you have. Okay, so that's the amount of money I need, 62,000. I'm just gonna punch it up to 63, and maybe on the final, when I launch the Kickstarter, it might be just 65 to cover any sort of extra things. One thing I didn't factor in here is Kickstarter takes a 10% cut of everything. So if I make 62,000 or 63,000, actually it's 5 to 10%. So somewhere in the middle there. So it could be $3,000 to $6,000 that I might have to pay to Kickstarter for using their service. So that's something to take into account. So I think the final thing might be 65,000 that I'm asking for. And that is how you figure out the numbers. So just to review, add up all your costs of what it is to create the book, come up with that number, figure out what you think your average pledge amount will be, $40 to $50. It might be $70, depends on how much you're selling your different tiers for, and divide it into that number, and then you figure out your backer number. And then, I don't know if this holds true for everybody, but it's probably good to just say 1/3 of those people are international, 2/3 are domestic, and figure out the shipping, how much it's going to ship your thing to them, and multiply it by that amount, and figure out your shipping amount to ship out to that many backers, and then add it to your initial thing, and you get your final number of what you need to ask for the Kickstarter. Alright, that's it for today's video. I appreciate you guys checking this out. Hopefully this made sense. Hopefully these numbers didn't go over your head. I know anytime someone talks numbers to me, it's like the worst thing ever. But you gotta know this stuff if you're gonna do a good job on your Kickstarter. And like I was saying before, $62,000, or I guess $63,000, it's a lot of money to ask for. And I think about that number and I think this is crazy. Who's gonna do this? But that's where that faith comes in. There's me putting faith in my backers, my supporters, my community, that they will support me, and I think the faith on them is pretty well founded that I will deliver the thing that I'm proposing. I feel like I do have that credibility. I've done 2 graphic novels that I've written and drawn, a third if you count Antler Boy, which is my collection of short stories. Last year I did a 100-page graphic novel for Marvel, Rocket Raccoon. So I think this is possible. I think this is doable. It's going out on a limb, but that's why you do a Kickstarter. And for me to ask any less than that would be irresponsible, because like I said, I think in the last video, I want to be able to say yes to Skyheart and no to freelance, instead of always saying no to Skyheart because I have to take freelance. So That's the reason I'm doing it. Any less than that would be irresponsible. And I think this is just one of those things where you have to like plant a flag and say, listen, if this is going to happen, it needs to be this amount, and just hope that the people show up and the funds get transferred, you know, that everything works out. All right. Thanks, guys. If you have any questions about this stuff, let me know in the comments. I appreciate all the awesome feedback I've been getting, and we'll see you later. Bye.